Once upon a time, in a forgotten village where dust settled on broken dreams, there lived a girl named Zainab. Every morning before the sun rose, she would walk to the river with a basin of dirty clothes balanced on her head, her feet bare against the cold earth, her hands already cracked and bleeding from yesterday's work. The river was cruel to her, just like everything else. The water was cold, the stones were sharp, and the soap burned her open wounds. But Zainab never cried. Not anymore. She had learned that tears changed nothing. So she scrubbed and scrubbed, watching her blood mix with the soapy water, watching it all flow away downstream like it had never mattered at all. The village women would pass by, their eyes sliding over her like she was invisible. Sometimes they would whisper loud enough for her to hear. "Cursed girl," they would say. Her mother died of shame. Bad luck follows her like a shadow. The children were worse. They would throw stones and run away laughing. Cursed. Cursed. Even the river doesn't want to wash her clean. But Zainab had one thing. One precious thing that nobody could take from her, though God knows her Aunt Folake had tried. Around her neck hung a small silver necklace, tarnished and old, with a simple pendant that caught the light when the sun hit it just right. It was all she had left of her mother. All she had left of love. She remembered the day her mother died. She was only 7 years old, small and terrified, watching her mother's life slip away on a dirty mat in their tiny house. Her mother's hand had reached up, trembling, and touched the necklace around her own neck. "Zainab, my precious girl," her mother had whispered, her voice barely there. "Come closer." Little Zainab had pressed her face against her mother's chest, feeling the heartbeat growing slower and slower. "This necklace," her mother said, struggling with each word. "It's all I have to give you. Your father gave it to me. He said he would come back for us. He promised." "Mama, please don't leave me," Zainab had sobbed, her whole body shaking. Her mother's fingers fumbled with the clasp, removing the necklace and placing it around Zainab's small neck. "Listen to me. Never take this off. Never. It's a promise. And promises, my darling, they always come back. Even when we think they're forgotten. Even when it seems impossible. Truth always comes home." Those were the last words her mother ever spoke. Her hand fell. Her eyes closed. And little Zainab screamed until her throat was raw, until her Aunt Folake burst through the door and slapped her silent. "Your mother is dead," Folake had said, her voice cold as winter. "You belong to me now. And you'll earn your keep, you useless child." 10 years had passed since that day. 10 years of beatings and starvation and working until her body wanted to collapse. 10 years of being told she was worthless, cursed, a burden nobody wanted. But through it all, Zainab kept the necklace. It was her mother's voice whispering in the darkness. It was proof that once, someone had loved her. On this particular morning, as Zainab knelt by the river scrubbing clothes, something changed. The air felt different. Heavier somehow. She looked up and saw a black car, expensive, gleaming, completely out of place on the dusty village road. It stopped. The engine went quiet. And Zainab's heart began to pound even though she didn't know why. A man stepped out. Tall, well-dressed, maybe 45 years old with gray touching his temples. He had the bearing of someone important, someone powerful. But his eyes looked haunted. He stood there for a moment, looking around the village like he was searching for ghosts. Then his gaze landed on Zainab. Or more precisely, on the necklace around her neck. His face went pale. His hand gripped the car door like he might fall. And he began walking toward her like a man in a dream, his feet moving without his permission. Zainab stood up, confused and frightened. The village women stopped their gossip. The children stopped their games. Everyone turned to watch. The man stopped 3 feet away from her, staring at the necklace. When he spoke, his voice was shaking. "That necklace. Where did you get that necklace?" Zainab's hand flew to it protectively. "It's mine. My mother gave it to me before she died. The man's legs seemed to give out. He steadied himself against a tree. Your mother. What was her name? Please, tell me her name. Halima, Zainab said, her voice suspicious. Why? Who are you? The silence that followed was terrible. Heavy. Suffocating. The entire village held its breath. Because, the man said, and tears were sliding down his face now, because I gave that necklace to her. 20 years ago. I put it around her neck and I promised her I would come back. I promised. Zainab felt the world tilting. You're. I'm the man who destroyed your mother's life, he said, his voice breaking completely. I'm the man who destroyed yours. My name is Adeyemi. And I am so sorry. Before Zainab could respond, her Aunt Folek came rushing through the crowd, her face twisted with false concern. Zainab! What's going on here? Get back to work this instant. Adeyemi turned to her, and something dangerous flashed in his eyes. Are you her guardian? Folek's anger melted the moment she really looked at him, saw his expensive clothes, his car, his bearing. Her voice became oily, servile. Chief Adeyemi? Is that you? Oh my, I didn't recognize you. Yes, I'm her aunt. I've been taking care of her since her poor mother passed, God rest her soul. Taking care of her? Adeyemi's voice was quiet but it cut like a knife. Is that what you call it? I've been asking questions since I arrived. I know about the beatings. The starvation. Working her like a slave while you sit in the shade. Folek's face flushed. I've fed her. Given her shelter. That ungrateful girl should be. Silence. Adeyemi's voice cracked like thunder. Folek stumbled backward, shocked into submission. An old woman stepped forward from the crowd. Her name was Mama Ngozi, and she was one of the few people who had ever shown Zainab kindness. We all saw it, Chief Adeyemi. We all knew. And God forgive us, we did nothing. We let this child suffer while we looked away. Shame rippled through the crowd. Some people looked at the ground. Others found sudden interest in the sky. Adeyemi turned back to the crowd, his voice thick with emotion. You let this happen. All of you. You called her cursed. You mocked her. You let her bleed in this river every day while you walked past. You let her childhood be stolen. He paused, struggling to control himself. But I am the most guilty of all. Because if I had kept my promise, none of this would have happened. He looked at Zainab, really looked at her, and what he saw seemed to break something inside him. 20 years ago, I was nobody. Just a young man with big dreams and empty pockets. I came to this village looking for work. And I met your mother. His voice softened, filled with old grief. Halima was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. Not just her face, though she was lovely. It was her spirit. Her laugh. The way she saw good in everything, even in a struggling nobody like me. We fell in love. God, how we loved each other. Tears were streaming down his face now, and he didn't try to hide them. But I was ambitious. Hungry. I wanted to make something of myself. I didn't want to be poor forever. So I told her I was going to the city. I'd make my fortune and come back for her. I gave her that necklace as a promise. As proof that I meant it. Zainab felt like she couldn't breathe. This was the prince from her mother's stories. The man her mother had waited for until her dying day. I left, Adeyemi continued, his voice barely above a whisper. And everything I touched turned to gold. I made money. Built businesses. Became important. But months turned into years. I told myself I'd go back next month, next year, when I had just a bit more. I was a coward. I was afraid to face her after so much time had passed. He closed his eyes. And then I met someone else. got married, built an empire. And I convinced myself that Halima had moved on, found someone else, forgotten me. I buried the guilt so deep I almost forgot about it. But you didn't forget, Zainab said, her voice hard as stone, her whole body shaking. My mother didn't forget. Do you know what she did? Every single day, she walked to the edge of the village and looked down that road. Waiting. Hoping. Year after year after year. Her voice rose, all the pain of 10 years pouring out. The village people called her crazy. They said she was waiting for a ghost. They mocked her. And she died, still looking down that road, still wearing your broken promise around her neck. Zainab was sobbing now, her words coming in gasps. Do you know what it's like? To grow up knowing your mother died of a broken heart? To watch her fade away, day by day, because the man she loved was too busy counting his money to remember she existed? No, Adeyemi said, tears pouring down his face. I don't. And I will carry that guilt until the day I die. There is no forgiveness for what I did. There is no excuse. The crowd was silent. Some people were crying now, moved by the raw pain in both their voices. Then Adeyemi did something that shocked everyone. He fell to his knees in the dirt in front of Zainab. A chief, a wealthy man, on his knees before a poor servant girl. I can't bring your mother back, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I can't give you the childhood you deserved. I can't undo 10 years of suffering. But I can give you a future. I can honor the promise I made to Halima, even if it's 20 years too late. What are you saying? Zainab whispered. I'm saying I want to take care of you. Give you the life your mother should have had. Education. Opportunity. Dignity. Everything I stole from both of you. You think money can fix this? Zainab said, her voice bitter. No. Money fixes nothing. But it's all I have to offer. And your mother. God, your mother believed in promises. She gave you that necklace and told you promises matter. That truth always comes home. He reached up and gently touched the necklace, not taking it, just acknowledging it. And here I am. 20 years late. But here. The promise came home. Not the way it should have. Not in time to save Halima. But it came. Zainab was trembling, overwhelmed, exhausted. Mama Ngozi stepped forward and put a gentle hand on her shoulder. Child, you don't have to decide right now. But listen to an old woman who's seen many things. Hatred will kill you faster than poverty ever could. Your mother, rest her soul, she wouldn't want you to waste your life on bitterness. She'd want you to live. Really live. Zainab looked at the necklace, then at Adeyemi kneeling in the dirt, then at her bleeding hands, then at the village that had tormented her for so long. If I come with you, she said quietly, I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for her. For the mother who never got the life she deserved. For the woman who believed in promises even when they broke her. That's all I ask, Adeyemi said. And I'm never taking this off. She touched the necklace. Never, he agreed. It's yours. It's hers. It's the promise. He stood and extended his hand. Zainab looked at it for a long moment. Then, with her bleeding, trembling hand, she took it. Folake started to protest, but Adeyemi silenced her with a look. He pulled out an envelope thick with cash and threw it at her feet. There. More money than you've seen in your miserable life. She's free of you. Folake scrambled for the money, revealing her true nature for everyone to see. Adeyemi and Zainab walked to the car. The village watched in stunned silence as the poor cursed girl got into the expensive vehicle. As they drove away, Zainab looked back at the river where she'd spent so many mornings bleeding. She touched the necklace and whispered, I'm coming, Mama. I'm finally coming home to you. If this story is touching your heart, please subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that notification bell. Because what happened next will restore your faith in healing and second chances. The drive to the city was quiet. Zainab sat in the back seat, watching her old world disappear, not sure if she should feel relieved or terrified. Adeyemi glanced at her in the rearview mirror. Are you hungry? We can stop somewhere. I'm fine, Zainab said, her voice flat. Silence again. Then Zainab spoke. Tell me about her. About my mother. Before you left. Adeyemi's expression softened with memory and pain. She was sunshine. That's the only way I can describe Halima. When she laughed, which was often, it felt like the whole world got brighter. She used to sing while she worked. Terrible voice, mind you, but she didn't care. She'd sing at the top of her lungs and dare anyone to tell her to stop. Despite herself, Zainab felt her lips curve slightly. She still sang. Even at the end. Even when she could barely breathe. She was stubborn, Adeyemi continued. God, so stubborn. We'd argue about the smallest things. But she was never cruel. Never harsh. She saw the good in everyone, even people who didn't deserve it. Like you? Zainab said quietly. Especially me. She saw something in me I didn't see in myself. And I repaid her faith with abandonment. They drove in silence for a while. Then Zainab asked, Did you really love her? Adeyemi's hands tightened on the steering wheel. With everything I had. Which is why leaving her was the greatest mistake of my life. I thought love could wait. I thought she'd always be there, that I could come back when I was ready. I learned too late that love dies when you starve it. That promises have expiration dates written in heartbeats. He met her eyes in the mirror. You look like her, you know. Same eyes. Same strength in your chin. Same way of holding pain inside so the world can't see it. Zainab touched the necklace. She told me stories. About a prince who would come back for us. About how we'd live in a beautiful house and I'd go to school and wear pretty dresses. I believed her when I was little. Then I stopped believing. Then she died. And I hated fairy tales. I'm no prince, Zainab. I'm just a man who's trying to keep a promise 20 years too late. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to trust me. I just want to try. Try what? To give you what I stole. A life. A real life. When they arrived at Adeyemi's mansion in the city, Zainab stood in the entrance hall completely overwhelmed. Everything was marble and gold and glass. She looked down at her tattered dress, at her bleeding hands, and felt like she'd contaminated the place just by entering. A kind-faced woman named Mrs. Adissa, the housekeeper, took her gently by the arm. Come, dear. Let's get you cleaned up and into some proper clothes. And we need to tend to those hands. She led Zainab upstairs to a bedroom. When Mrs. Adissa opened the door, Zainab froze. The room was bigger than the entire house she'd shared with her mother. There was a bed with soft blankets, a bookshelf, windows overlooking the city. This is yours now, Mrs. Adissa said gently. If you need anything at all, you just ask. After Mrs. Adissa left, Zainab walked slowly into the room. She touched the bed like it might vanish. She opened the closet and found it empty, waiting to be filled. She went to the window and looked out at the city lights beginning to twinkle as evening fell. And then, finally, she broke. She collapsed on the bed and sobbed. 10 years of held-back tears came pouring out. She cried for her mother. For her lost childhood. For her bleeding hands. For every time she'd been called cursed. For every stone thrown. For every morning at the river. She cried until there was nothing left inside her but emptiness. When she finally stopped, exhausted and hollow, she touched the necklace. I miss you, Mama, she whispered to the empty room. I miss you so much it feels like dying. The weeks that followed were strange. Adeyemi took her to doctors who treated her hands, gave her medicine, checked her for malnutrition and anemia. He enrolled her in school. He bought her clothes, books, everything she needed. But he kept his distance, sensing that she wasn't ready for closeness. They ate dinner together every evening, quiet meals where they were learning how to be around each other. "How was school today?" Adeyemi would ask. "Fine. We're learning mathematics and literature. Your mother loved stories." "I know." Small exchanges. Careful. Like two people walking on ice, testing to see if it would hold. One night, about 3 months after arriving, Zainab had a nightmare. She woke up screaming, back in the river, drowning in blood-red water, her aunt's voice echoing, "Worthless. Cursed. Your mother died of shame." There was a knock on her door. Adeyemi's voice, concerned. "Zainab? Are you all right?" She opened the door, tears streaming down her face. I can't stop seeing it. The river. Her face. Every time I close my eyes." Adeyemi stood there, not sure what to do. "May I come in?" She nodded. He sat in the chair by the window, not too close, respecting her space. "Talk to me," he said gently. And for the first time, Zainab really talked. She told him everything. About watching her mother die. About the first time her aunt hit her. About the boy who threw stones. About washing clothes until her hands bled. About being so hungry she ate scraps from garbage. About wanting to die but being too afraid to do it. She talked for hours, and Adeyemi listened. Sometimes he cried. Sometimes he looked angry. But mostly he just listened. When she finally ran out of words, exhausted, she said, "Why did you really come back? Tell me the truth." Adeyemi was quiet for a long time. 3 months before I found you, my wife died. Cancer. We had a good marriage, but it wasn't what I had with Halima. We never had children. And as I sat alone in my big empty house with all my money and success, I realized I had nothing. Nothing real. Nothing that mattered. He looked at her. I started thinking about Halima. Wondering if she'd moved on, if she was happy. And I felt this pull, this need to know. So I hired someone to find out. And they told me she'd died. 10 years ago. Waiting for me. His voice broke. I came to the village to see her grave. To apologize to the dust. I didn't know about you. I didn't know she'd had a child. My child. Zainab's head snapped up. What? Adeyemi looked stricken. You didn't know? Zainab, you're my daughter. Not just Halima's. Mine. I counted back the dates. You were born 8 months after I left. She was pregnant when I abandoned her. The world stopped. Zainab couldn't breathe. I'm your father. And I wasn't there. For your birth, for your childhood, for any of it. I failed you twice. Once by leaving your mother. And again by not being there when you needed me most. Zainab stood up, shaking. Get out. Zainab. Get out. Get out, get out, get out. She was screaming, throwing pillows, books, anything she could reach. You don't get to be my father. You don't get to call yourself that. Fathers don't leave. Fathers don't let their children bleed in rivers. You're nothing. You're nobody. Adeyemi left, his face destroyed. The door closed. And Zainab collapsed, sobbing so hard she thought her ribs would break. Mrs. Adissa found her in the morning, curled on the floor, still crying. She called Dr. Amara, a therapist, who came immediately. Over the next months, Dr. Amara helped Zainab understand her trauma, her anger, her grief. She taught her that healing isn't linear. That some days you feel better and some days you fall apart. That forgiveness isn't about deserving, it's about freedom. 6 months after learning the truth, Zainab went to Adeyemi's study. He looked up, surprised. She hadn't spoken to him in weeks. "Can I talk to you?" she asked quietly. "Always." She sat down. "I've been so angry. At you. At my aunt. At the village. At God. At my mother for leaving me, even though I know that's not fair. I carried that anger like armor. It protected me from feeling the pain underneath." She took a deep breath. "But Dr. Amara helped me understand something. The anger was keeping me trapped. Keeping me in the river. And I don't want to live there anymore." Adeyemi waited, hardly breathing. "You broke my mother's heart," Zainab said, her voice steady now. "You stole years from both of us. You let me suffer when you could have prevented it. Those are facts. I can't change them, and neither can you." She stood up and walked to him. "But you came back. When you could have stayed comfortable in your guilt, you came back. You told the truth even though it destroyed you. You faced the village. You faced me. And you've given me a chance at life." Tears were sliding down her face now. "So I'm choosing to forgive you. Not because you deserve it. You don't. But because I deserve peace. Because I deserve to stop being that girl by the river. Because my mother believed promises mattered, and you're finally keeping yours." She touched the necklace. "I'm forgiving you for me. And for her." Adeyemi's face crumpled. He started to sob, deep wrenching sounds. "Thank you. Thank you, Zainab. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but thank you." Zainab hesitated, then said softly, "And maybe someday I can call you what you are." He looked up, hope and fear in his eyes. "What am I?" "My father." The word hung in the air between them, fragile and precious. "But not yet," she added. "I'm not ready yet." "I'll wait," he said, his voice thick. "However long it takes. Forever if I have to." She nodded. Then, awkwardly, she opened her arms. Adeyemi stood and stepped into her embrace. They held each other, father and daughter, both crying, both beginning to heal. Time passed. Zainab threw herself into her studies. She was brilliant, her teachers said. Hungry for knowledge. She devoured books, aced her exams, asked a million questions. The girl who'd never been to school was suddenly at the top of her class. On her 18th birthday, Adeyemi took her to a beautiful restaurant. They were comfortable together now, able to laugh, able to talk about difficult things without it destroying them. "I have something for you," Adeyemi said, pulling out a small box. Zainab opened it and gasped. Inside was a ring, beautiful, simple, elegant. "This was going to be your mother's," Adeyemi said, his voice emotional. "I bought it 20 years ago. I was going to propose when I came back to the village. I never got the chance." Zainab's eyes filled with tears. "I'm not asking you to marry me," he said quickly, and they both laughed awkwardly. "God, no. That would be weird." He took her hand. "I'm asking you to let me adopt you. Officially. Legally. To make you my daughter in every sense. To give you my name. To make sure, if anything happens to me, everything I have is yours." Zainab couldn't speak. "This ring," he continued, "I want you to wear it as a reminder. That you are loved. That you are chosen. That you are worthy of every good thing this world has to offer." "You want to adopt me?" Zainab whispered. "If you'll have me. As your father. For real." Zainab nodded frantically, crying too hard to speak. "Yes. Yes." Adeyemi slipped the ring on her finger. They embraced in the middle of the restaurant while other diners smiled and applauded. "Welcome to the family, Zainab Okonkwo," he said. "That sounds so strange," she laughed through her tears. "You'll get used to it." "My daughter." 2 years later, Zainab graduated from university with honors in social work. Adeyemi stood and cheered so loud people stared. She walked across the stage, confident and radiant, wearing her cap and gown and her mother's necklace and her father's ring. After the ceremony, as they walked through campus, Zainab stopped. "Dad, I want to do something. Something important." "Tell me." "I want to go back. To the village. To Odoma." Adeyemi's expression darkened. "Why would you want to go back there after everything?" "Because there are girls there like I was. Suffering. Invisible. Being told they're worthless. And I want to help them." "How?" "I want to start a foundation. A school. A safe house. A place where girls can learn and heal and dream. Where they're told they matter." Adeyemi stared at her, amazed. "You want to return to the place that hurt you, to help others?" "That's exactly why I have to go back. Because I know what it's like. And I know it doesn't have to be that way." He pulled her into a hug. "Your mother's daughter. Through and through. I'll fund it. Every penny you need." "Thank you, Dad. What will you call it?" Zainab touched the necklace. "The Promise House. Because every girl deserves someone who keeps their promises." 6 months later, a beautiful new building stood at the edge of Odoma village. Zainab stood in front of it, now 21 years old, wearing a simple dress and her mother's necklace and her father's ring. Adeyemi stood beside her. Mama Ngozi was there. So were dozens of villagers and young girls. Folake watched from a distance, bitter and alone, clutching the money that had bought her nothing but loneliness. "I was born in this village," Zainab said, addressing the crowd. "I suffered here. I bled in that river every day while you watched. I was called cursed, worthless, a burden." Some villagers looked ashamed. "But one day, a man came back to keep a promise he made to my mother. And that changed everything." She touched the necklace. This necklace was a promise. A promise that seemed broken forever. My mother died believing it was empty words. But she was wrong. Because promises have power. They cross time. They wait in darkness. And when the moment is right, they come home. She gestured to the building behind her. "Today, I'm making a new promise. To every girl in this village who's been told she doesn't matter, you do. To every girl working instead of learning, you deserve education. To every girl suffering in silence, I see you." Her voice broke. "The Promise House opens today. Free education. Safe shelter. Medical care. Counseling. Every girl is welcome. Because no child should suffer the way I did. And no mother should die with a broken promise around her neck." The crowd erupted in applause. Young girls ran forward, surrounding Zainab. She knelt down, embracing them, crying, seeing herself in each of their faces. One little girl, maybe 7 years old, with scared eyes and bruised arms, whispered, "Are you really going to help us?" Zainab cupped her face gently. "I promise. And I keep my promises." The girl started to cry. Zainab held her tight, and soon she was surrounded by crying girls, all of them finally believing that someone cared, that someone saw them, that they mattered. Adeyemi watched from a distance, tears streaming down his face. Mama Ngozi came to stand beside him. "You kept your promise, Chief. Halima can rest now." "No," Adeyemi said, watching his daughter surrounded by the children she was saving. "She kept it. My daughter kept it. She's keeping it every day." Zainab looked back at him and smiled, a smile full of peace, full of purpose, full of love. She held the necklace up to catch the sunlight. It glimmered, bright and beautiful, no longer tarnished. Some promises are broken. Some promises take 20 years to come true. Some promises require blood and tears and forgiveness and grace. But the truly important ones? They find a way. Because love, real love, never forgets. It waits. It endures. It comes home. This is the story of Zainab. The girl who survived. The woman who forgave. The promise keeper. If this story moved you, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that notification bell. Share this video with someone who needs hope today. Leave a comment and tell us, what promise do you need to keep? What broken thing in your life needs healing? Your story matters. You matter. And like Zainab's mother said, truth always comes home. Keep believing. Keep loving. Keep your promises. We'll see you in the next story.